Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's true.
How how do they put that into the will? You just
This
is where we start.
Yeah,
It's exactly where we start.
So I actually had my attorneys at Mordhock and Hamroff put into my will that anybody who attends my funeral will be the recipient of a bottle of Macallan 18 just for attending. Under the condition they open it at my funeral.
So you have to pour a drink and have it with you.
Correct.
I love that.
Yeah. Or just straight from the bottle.
Straight from the bottle. Pass it around type of situation.
Here.
I was gonna say you're not gonna have multiple bottles.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Good health.
Cheers. I appreciate you boys for coming in.
Oh, it's so
That is really good.
That is
I've never
really
had
good.
Macallan before.
Yeah. Take a look-see. Smooth. That's smooth.
I like the. You know what I like? I like the Japanese whiskeys. Hibiki, Yamakaze,
Yamazaki.
Yamazaki.
Yeah. Hibiki, Yamazaki, Mancho, they're all like getting really expensive these days. But they're delicious.
I bought a bottle back when it was I feel like 2-3 years ago. Hibiki was I don't know $70.
Yeah.
Now it's over $120.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. But I've never had Macallan before. I'll tell you what. I had Blue Label. Blue Label smooth. You like this better than Blue Label?
I don't hate on Blue Label. I just prefer Macallan.
Okay.
Dollar for dollar, I think it's the best scotch in the world.
Dollar for dollar. What does a bottle for like this go for?
$100, like
$100?
$100. Yeah,
I think that's like a good. I feel like that's a good price for a bottle of solid whiskey.
They're selling so well that now they're literally cutting off stores. Like their quantities are limited to like 2 or 3.
Wow.
Yeah, they can only order 2 or 3 bottles at a clip.
Damn.
Yeah, that's what Danny over at Little Neck Wines and Liquor told me. I mean, do you think he's lying?
He might be.
He's lying.
He might be.
I mean, he's a fellow Jew. It's possible that. Yeah.
Yo, it's a family show.
But I'm Jewish.
I know. Oh, so okay, so it's good.
I'm Jew-ish. I can say that shit.
Okay.
I can say that shit.
Welcome. We start
Hey,
off
Joe.
hot and heavy.
Can we introduce Joe Levey?
We have to.
Hi.
But I'll tell you what, Joe's got to get up on that mic.
How's
Hey,
this? We good?
perfect.
Perfect.
Good.
What's up, brother?
Not much, man.
It's
Thanks
good
for
to-
having me.
Yeah, of course. Listen, Matt has a plethora of guests that he said need to come on the podcast, and I don't question it. I saw a little bit about you through the site, and obviously, good speakings from Matt, and nothing but good stuff. So
I've been talking you up a little bit.
he has been talking you up, but
All right, cool.
I have no doubt that it's for proper and real reasons.
Yes.
But thank you again for coming down.
Joe and I actually met at a charity golf outing. Was it UPC?
I don't remember.
With Scotto, like one of those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I can-
it was
yeah.
it was UPC right at Cold Spring.
Mhm.
Yeah, Cold Spring Country Club. And you get that feeling you meet somebody, like the expression you can know a person before you know about them, and that's what happened. Now we're best friends.
It was just like that.
It's pretty funny. People ask me how long we know each other, and I'm just like, years.
Right.
And it's literally been like
2. Yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah.
I felt like I worked for you decades. It felt like.
Yes.
I feel like I worked for you for
I was
decades,
searching
and it
my
was
brain for the right response,
and it was
never
like
came.
7 months, 8
no,
months.
it was, but like your family, dude. You know?
No, it was good. It was all good vibes. It was all good vibes.
You should come back and check out the game room. It's sick.
I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down. I told you I'm still trying to find. I want to make sure my shit was on Do Not Disturb. I'm trying to find new office space, and it's been more challenging than I'd like to admit.
Okay.
So now I'm looking in Farmingdale, and I need to find something. It seems like it's difficult to find something that's reasonable, reasonably priced, nice, and not a shithole.
Yeah.
And in a good location. There was a office down the street in Huntington in the village, and it was a house. And the woman said, I called her up. She's like, hey, it's first floor, it's 1,000 square feet. It's not, you have to pay utilities on top of the rent. But it's a beautiful spot. Blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. What's the rent? It's like $2,400 a month. $2,400 a month
For how much space?
1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
In a house?
That's actually,
No, stop it.
I don't know.
No,
For that market, it's not unreasonable.
it's brutal.
It is brutal, but
It's brutal to
everything
find
is
anything right
everything
now.
is brutal right now.
Yeah, I got my apartment right at the perfect time. I couldn't imagine doing anything else right now.
Mhm.
But I haven't seen you since I got back from Dubai.
Yes.
I
How
went-
was Dubai?
Dubai is an interesting place. I enjoyed it. I didn't get the hot girl experience of Dubai, like
Mhm.
getting chauffeured around all the luxury cars and all the top dining experiences. I kind of just was, because I was with Kai, I was kind of just expo, hotel room.
But I even feel
And
like
gyms.
I feel like their Holiday Inn has like a diamond chandelier because it's Dubai.
Well, I'll tell you what, they they price everything like everything's a diamond chandelier, and it's not. I went to the buffet the last night that I was there. I went to the buffet in the hotel, and let me tell you, there was maybe, not exaggerating, there were maybe 8 things to eat at the buffet.
Mm-hmm.
It was not stacked. There was a beef stroganoff, and for some reason, yeah, I remember the beef stroganoff, and for some reason, they saute everything in tomatoes and sauce. Don't know why. Doesn't make any sense for the Middle East to me, but whatever. First time there.
All right.
Cool.
You had a good time?
Well, I had a great time,
Good.
but the buffet was $60 for that. I looked at them. I was like, yo,
Just the beef stroganoff.
that's basically all I ate
Yeah,
anyway. Beef
got it.
stroganoff and a couple little cheesecakes.
Sounds about right.
$60. That's insane. That's past New York City prices.
Well, now you're talking his language. 'Cause
That's what I was
Joe's
gonna say.
proficiency, Yeah.
Nice transition.
Yeah, he's
Thanks.
good. He's good. He's getting the hang of it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so let's get into my man Joe over here. So, he's
I think the sativa is hitting me a little bit. It's like,
Oh,
is
it's
that
over.
fast acting. It feels fast acting.
Live resin.
Live resin, love it.
so you deal with the hospitality industry and the cannabis industry for law, I guess you could say, correct?
Yeah.
So let me backtrack because I kind of like to do a preface. How did you get into law? Did you always want to be an attorney? Did you always have an interest in law? What was it that drew you to it?
No, I
Love that.
I didn't want to be a lawyer. I had no desire to be a lawyer. I didn't plan on being a lawyer. I kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. I had that in my blood. My dad started his own business. His dad started his own business. I just knew I had that in me. And I'm not so great at taking direction from other people. So I knew at some point I was going to have my own something. I just didn't know what that something was going to be. So law school was a choice I made because I figured worst case scenario, if I know a little bit about law, I should be able to protect myself a little bit better. So it was sort of like a foundational step for me.
Okay.
So never really wanted to practice. I just figured it would equip me better to take care of myself and start my own thing.
And take care of yourself in terms of just like knowing the law for specifics. Like, were you
Just to make sure I don't get fucked.
okay?
Because everybody gets fucked.
Everybody.
You were telling that story before. So
Oh yeah.
So if I know my way around, what people can and can't do and how to defend myself or go after somebody else, I figured that put me at a bit of an advantage.
Okay.
And when I was in law school, I actually started my own company, not legally related. I was managing fighters in mixed martial arts and boxing.
Oh, that's cool.
Weird thing, different life, totally different podcast for a different day. But long story short is I took on a partner, super wealthy dude, and that fell apart. And exactly what I was nervous about, I kind of got bodied out of that because he had a ton of resources and he was able to kind of like throw his weight around, and I could only do so much as like a 23-year-old kid living in my parents' basement. So negotiated a deal for myself, walked away. And at that point, I had graduated law school, passed the bar in a couple states, and I had to figure out what I was going to actually do. So, the law school and the law world works on these cycles. And you always hire new lawyers right on those cycles as law school is sort of winding down. They're taking the bar. That's when interviewing happens and things like that. And I missed that cycle because I thought I didn't need to interview for a job because I already had this company that I started that was doing pretty well. And then that all kind of came crashing down. I was looking for a job when no one was hiring. Super humbling time in my life.
And this is, I'm sorry to cut you off. This is what year?
This is 2000, end of 2007, beginning of 2008.
Yeah, so right about the economic downfall for, the first big recession that we saw in our time.
Yeah, super humbling time in my life, living in my parents' basement, sending out hundreds of resumes and cover letters every day. Any job I wanted didn't want me. Any job I could get, I didn't want to do. So, I was trying everything. I was showing up on site to firms that wouldn't return my calls, getting escorted out by security, finding creative ways to get my resume to people. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody cared that I started my own company. No one cared that I was able to figure some shit out and that I'm super resourceful. People were like, where'd you go to school? What are your grades? Cool. You missed the cycle. And that was kind of the end of it. one day I was on my computer sending out resumes and cover letters, and I saw a little Google AdWord thing in the corner of my screen for this guy in his law firm, solo practitioner, just started. Clicked on the link, shitty website, he made it himself, but I liked what he had to say. Called himself a lawyer for entrepreneurs, which resonated with me. So I cold called him. He answered. He said he just started his own firm. He couldn't afford to hire anybody, but if I wanted to come in for a cup of coffee, he'd have time for me. So I did that the next day. Cup of coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation. We had a ton in common, came from like the same neighborhood, had all this similar shit in our backgrounds. And I put a proposal together on how we might work together. 2 years later, we officially became partners and we started this law firm. Now we have 35 people that work for us, and we're the largest hospitality and cannabis-focused law firm in New York.
That's awesome. And what's the firm name, just for those that don't know?
Helbraun Levey.
Cool. I love that. I love that little rise to up, to the top type of situation. And I'm sure you don't feel like you're at the top. You still have a lot more to conquer.
Oh,
and do.
yeah. Every day.
Yeah.
Different hill to climb.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that you were sending out all those resumes. When I graduated Quinnipiac, I graduated with like a bullshit degree, to be honest with you. I graduated with communication, public relations, and business. Just because school was never for me. I couldn't stand school. I couldn't wait to get the fuck out, to be honest with you. So when I graduated, though, I went back to work at Apple because that was kind of the only thing that I knew at the time. I only knew retail. I only knew sales. So I said, you know what? Let me jump back in. Let me just make money. I'll find a job. I always wanted to be a corporate kid. I was like, I want to go into the city, 9 to 5, take the train back, have the wife and kids, this and that, blah, blah. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, was I wrong in thinking that was the way things were going to be. And I'm kind of happy about that, to be honest with you, because resume after resume went out and crickets came back, basically.
Yeah.
I never heard anything. I never got anywhere with anybody. I shifted jobs multiple times. One was the pleasure of meeting Mr. Matt over here.
What's up, bud?
And I think when I picked a camera up and I was kind of just good at it, I said, well, we might as well double down on this and do our thing and see where this will take us.
You know what really sucks about this is that Nick was a great and is a great sales guy, like a naturally born talented salesperson. And to lose the battle to the production industry is very bittersweet for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, I did love sales.
I don't get to see your beautiful face every day.
Listen, I'll send you a selfie a day if you want. I'm looking a little disheveled right now. My man came in here trimmed up and ready to go. I need to hit.
Right.
It's getting a little
there
crazy
are like
on
three
me.
hairs that are popping out of your face that I really want to pull, but I'm not going.
I'll have my barber take care of it.
Right,
I got to go to Vegas next week. She'll trim me up.
Oh, you're going to Vegas?
Yeah, and then the hair. Yeah,
that's our place.
Then the hair's getting nuts on me now.
The hair looks majestic.
I'm trying to get I'm trying to get a majestic like flow going where I could just. You whip your hair around and all of a sudden bells start chirping in the distance. I did love sales. I did. But I tell all my boys that are in sales, it's a fucking grind. And you know it.
It is.
It's
I enjoy the grind though.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. But for some, and it's not that I don't enjoy it, you're only as good as your last sale. So, you get high and you're all excited. You're like, oh shit, man, I just closed a big sale. It's like, oh well, what do you got in the pipeline? And it's like, oh, okay. Well, I gotta get back to that mindset. I have friends that they don't have that mindset. And then they take all the no's way too much to heart.
Yeah.
Instead of like looking at that as more no's leads me to a yes down the line. Mm-hmm. So I like sales and I like that the money that you can make in sales, but I just knew, you know what? I just wanted to be my own boss. I just wanted to see if it worked. And if it didn't work, cool, whatever. I'll go get another job. I'll do something else. So it's cool and enlightening to hear that somebody else kind of went through something similar in terms of you were sending those emails out, not hearing anything back, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to make your own path in this world, I feel like. Well, some people do. Some people are happy to just do whatever gets thrust upon them, right? But there are certain people who just like need to find their own way, and I think it's a much more gratifying life if you do that.
Yeah, I heard somebody, I think it was, who was it? It might have been Andy Frisella. You know Andy Frisella? You ever seen him? He's an entrepreneur in the fitness industry. Okay. Does a lot of different things. They're out of, he owns First Form. It's a supplement company out there. But they do a lot of other stuff. I mean, he's built it up to be something really big. And he does a podcast as well. But he says a lot, like, entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. Like, it's cool. you could go make a difference at a company, work your ass off, and still be able to not only make good money, but make a difference at that company and continue to build it and make it bigger than you ever thought it could be. You know, to be the boss, no one knows how hard it is to be the boss until they are the boss. And then there's so much riding on your shoulders on daily tasks, people that you have to manage. I mean, I'm not there yet, but hearing that you have 35 employees is amazing. Like, I want to get there.
It's the worst thing in a lot of ways, honestly. It's literally the worst things. I mean, sometimes it's great.
Yeah, I'm
it's
sure.
exciting and all that shit. But like, the hardest part of my job is really managing the people, managing the firm. It's a big machine now. When it was just 2 of us or 3 of us or 5 of us, it was manageable. You could see something happening, and if you wanted to effectuate some kind of change, it was pretty quick and easy to do. 35 people, there's a lot of personalities, it's a lot of ideas, it's a lot of conflict, it's a lot of issues, and a lot of people that, you know, sometimes need babysitting, sometimes can do their own thing, and, you know, somewhat unpredictable.
What was the first realization that you needed to have people come in? Was it just that the workload was becoming too much for you guys to deal with as a pair?
We wanted to grow. We had this vision, and we both like building things. And we built our firm, and the bigger our firm got, the more we were able to do, the more people we were able to support, and the greater the impact was on the industry that we represent. And it was generally a positive one.
Okay. All right. And then I would say, I guess my next question would be, how did you land in the hospitality industry? Because I feel like the cannabis, how long have you been doing this now? How long has the firm been established?
Firm's been established for about 15 years.
Okay, so obviously it didn't start out with cannabis as well, because that's fairly new.
Right.
So hospitality, how did it land in that?
Yeah, so we started as lawyers for entrepreneurs. Between my business partner and myself, we had both started companies in the past, some success, some failures. So we thought we had a lot to bring to the table instead of just, you know, I can do your legal work for you and see you later. So we were lawyers for entrepreneurs, and it was a pretty broad net, right?
So you dealt with what was like the range of something that you could deal with on a high side and a low side?
We had a guy who was, you know, breeding puppies, to a guy who was running underground illegal poker games.
Oh, shit.
People in the fashion industry.
What were some of those calls that you got?
Yeah, not good ones.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, you know, it was one of those things where you got to take anything that comes in.
Yeah.
Right? You need the retainers in, you need the clients, you need work to do. There were some times where, like, I'd call the office from my cell phone just to make sure the phone was working because it wouldn't ring all day. You know, I checked my internet connection to make sure my email was working because I hadn't gotten an email all day. Now I get 250 emails a day.
Now he's like, the simpler times.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. But we were trying to level up as a law firm. We felt like we were getting better at what we were doing. And we talked to this marketing guy that we were connected to. And we didn't really like the guy. And we thought most of his ideas were dumb. But one of the things that he said that we did like was that if we want to be taken more seriously and we want to level up, we can't just be these broad general practitioners unless we want, you know, we had the goal to start a law firm with like hundreds of people and we wanted to be a general practice, do everything law firm, which we really didn't. So we started taking a look at where the clients were that we liked working with and what we were good at and who our contacts were and what our customer base would look like if we were to go in one direction or another. And we both, my partner and myself, have histories in hospitality and in retail. So we were like, okay, well, maybe we could be the lawyers for the hospitality industry. And we started to play that out. And I was gravitating more towards the compliance and the regulatory stuff, and he gravitated more towards the transactional stuff. So he could do your lease, your corporate work, your buy-sell agreements, and I could do your liquor license, your health permit, and all that stuff. And we found that we could work together on those things, get people from point A to point B a lot quicker, and provide them a higher level of customer service than they were getting in the legal space, and also deal with people who've worked in restaurants before, worked in bars before, so actually understand operations. And we just launched that and kind of haven't looked back since.
I was going to say, so when I think of hiring an attorney, like I open a restaurant up, exactly what you said is probably something that hasn't been done by a lot of the smaller law firms to begin with, in terms of he handles XYZ, I handle ABC. And together, how quickly that would move a project along versus one guy having to, oh, well, I just got to liquor licenses and I haven't gotten to the other stuff yet and this and that. It's almost just playing into your strengths is the word I'm looking for.
Totally playing to our strengths, and also it employs that almost like that conveyor belt mentality, right? So someone comes in, you do something, you pass it along to the next guy, he does something, and
The Ford assembly line, ready to rock.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we became incredibly efficient, and we shared an office that was like 100 square feet. We sat across the table like this, closer actually, answered our own phones, our laptops were kind of up against each other, and we did everything out of that office. So we were constantly synced with everything we did. Every phone call was on speakerphone, so we'd both be in on every call. Something to do for you, something to do for you. Cool, let's do it. And we would just crush it, and we just tried to overwhelm people with a high level of customer service. No one handed us anything. A lot of the guys we compete with, their father-in-law had a practice for 100 years and they bought into it. Or they used to work for the state or work for the city and they had a hook. We had nothing other than we just hustled. So we just, ran circles around everybody, developed a name for ourselves, got out there, got clients, charged people like nothing to get started just to show them what we could do. And then the more sophisticated we got, the better we got, the more word spread, started to bump up our fees a little bit. And, we were very fortunate in that we targeted a group of people in the bar and restaurant industry, 15 years ago that became like the next wave of superstars. And we did a good job for them, and they all became incredible referral sources. And then it starts to splinter, right? You open a brand new restaurant, gets all the press, gets your Michelin star, your Great Times review, whatever it is. Well, you're going to have a GM that's going to want to leave and start his own place. You're going to have a chef who's going to leave and start his own place. You're going to have a head of your beverage program leave and start her own place. And they're all going to know about the relationship that person had with their lawyer and how great they were. And, we asked one of our first famous clients what our reputation was in the industry and what it was back in 2008 when we got started. And he said, you guys were known as the lawyers who come to the restaurants, because no lawyers ever did that. Why would they? You come to them. You're just a client to them. They don't really give a shit whether you own a restaurant, a bank, a dry cleaner. It doesn't matter. We specifically targeted people in the space, and we actually gave a shit. So we'd show up, and we'd want to see you in the kitchen, and we'd want to drink your drinks and eat your food and see what you're about, so that we understood you and your business. So down the road, when you call us with questions and you have things you want to talk about, we can put it in the right perspective because we understand.
Isn't that crazy that that other law firms and other business professionals have no need or desire to get invested in what their clients actually do?
I mean, it's crazy to me.
That's crazy to me too. That's
yeah,
why.
But it's just, I guess it depends where you come from.
Just looking at them as a number instead of actually human beings that are cultivating a business.
If I went to law school because I wanted to be a lawyer and I wanted to get a job at a law firm doing law, cool, I'm doing law. What does that mean? What kind of law? Who are my clients? Do I give a shit? I don't know. But that's not my path. I came at this as an entrepreneur, wanting to start my own company. I targeted a group and said, I can help these people. I can provide value to people in this community. And that's been the idea. And we keep layering on new services all the time so that we can be more and more full service.
I want to rewind and I want to talk to you about increasing your prices, because that's something that I talk to a lot of videographers about and other people in creative professions, and how it's a very scary thing to have to actually start increasing your prices once you not only become more knowledgeable, but become better at what you do. And theoretically, you're not penalized for getting a job done quicker. You're rewarded for it because you have the expertise to do it without any fumbles or fuck ups or anything like that. So going from a space of barely charging clients because you wanted to prove your merit and prove your worth, which we theoretically all do. We do that. I've done that for my videos. I know a lot of people have done that in multiple different industries. And then obviously you did that on the law side of things. But what was that like for you guys to start having that conversation of we need to charge people more and we have to actually start turning profits?
Yeah, I mean, I was having a heart attack about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when it happened, actually. I remember it's really interesting. So we were sitting in our office. We were charging $150 an hour. and taking like 5-hour retainers from people. So people were writing us checks for $750. And we were like, yes, this is amazing. $750. And we were like, we want to change our rates, but we're very nervous about doing it. And we were in one small office suite within a much bigger office with a bunch of solo practitioners, a bunch of lawyers. And this woman, heard us having this conversation, who was in the office next door to us. And she's like, what's your hourly rate? And we're like, $150. She goes, okay. So let me tell you something. Someone told this to me early in my career. People have an idea of how much they should be paying a lawyer, and they have an idea of how good a lawyer is based on how much they charge. So someone told me earlier that if I wanted to be a lawyer in New York City, I better charge at least $300 an hour. Because if someone hears there's a lawyer in New York City who charges less than $300 an hour, they're going to automatically assume that you suck. So we were like, nah, that can't be right. Like our clients need, they need to pay $150. Like $300 is too much. And she's like, okay, well, that's my advice. And we thought about it and we're like, fuck it. Let's try it. If we do $300 an hour and we lose half our clients, we're even.
You did it all
right?
together, or you went client by client, like periodically?
No, we just sent out a notice to all of our clients and we said, hey, starting next year, rates are going up, $300 an hour. And we lost like 2 people and no one else said a word. And we kept going, and that actually helped. We saw a huge uptick in business, and we were now maybe more marketable to those bigger groups that were like, we don't need to pay bargain basement prices. We can pay a real lawyer to do this. So we kind of wound up dropping that, perceived tag that we may have been, a lesser outfit because we were cheaper. And now we continue to raise our prices. I mean, we lowered them during COVID because people needed that. But I mean, now I charge a lot more than $300 or $150 an hour.
What is a standard fee? Like, what is a median price for an attorney in the city that specializes in hospitality?
Well, there aren't many that specialize in hospitality, but I think your average New York City lawyer fee, your hourly, is probably like $500 an hour.
Okay, so you were like way below. And how long were you keeping at that $150 for?
For a while.
And do you think it was too long?
It's hard to know. I mean, I think we grew.
Looking back, I guess.
I don't think so. I think we grew really nicely and really organically, and I have no complaints or regrets about the growth in those early days. So I think we probably did it right.
Okay.
I can speak from experience. Joe's a solid attorney.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't feel like you would bring him in if he wasn't.
True.
Yeah, I feel like, all your connections, not only they're your friends, but they're your connections for a reason as well.
So, what's interesting is that Joe follows a very similar mindset in terms of insulating and protecting the network. One of the things that I found to be considerably attractive about the firm, and Joe in particular, and the way he carries himself, is how much he actually cares about not just clients, but people. So he won't introduce you to somebody as a prospective friend if he hasn't vetted them personally. And I think that's why we get along.
Yeah, that's true.
Vetting is huge. We talk about that a lot. Just personal, professional, you need to.
Yeah, I take relationships very seriously.
Well, you have to. I mean, you have a certain clientele list now, and you have a reputation not only for your firm, but personally as well, because the two really do carry over.
And you never know. You never know where you're going. You never know what you're going to need or who's going to need you. And you never know, what value is going to get uncovered somewhere. And if you have a solid network and you have a solid group of people and they think highly of you, then it's going to be easier for you to just continue to meet interesting people.
Yeah. I mean, the network expands constantly. It's amazing. I always heard my mom talk about networking. Networking. Mm-hmm. When I was a little baby, everything. I used to listen to her when she was in the office. She used to watch me. I used to sleep on the floor in her office.
How is your mother?
She's good.
Good.
She's good. Working her ass off.
Last time I saw her, we were raising capital for one of her companies or something. I can't remember.
Movies. She does the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Film projects.
Yep. She does a lot of film projects.
Yeah.
I think one of her film projects is almost fully funded, and they start shooting.
That's awesome.
In the next year or so.
I remember some of the script names. I don't know if legally I can say them.
I don't know if you
on
can
this
either.
podcast, and I'm not going to. But I will say she is mighty proficient in the fundraising arena of of film.
We gotta check. Is that good advice that he doesn't know if he should say it and he
right,
doesn't say it now?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Probably
So we're good.
don't.
We cleared
Right.
it.
Probably don't.
Clear it with the attorney
some
right
big
now.
names too, like Chris Hemsworth, Paul Giamatti. Like
Yeah.
they have, they have casts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does her thing.
Yeah.
She's amazed me since day one with some of the relationships.
Shout out to Mama Rizzo.
Yeah, shout out to Kay Rizzles. Love Mom Dukes. She's the best. But yeah, I used to listen to her when I was little. I grew up basically in her office, and I used to listen to networking. Everybody just talking about it, and I was like, what the fuck is networking? I was like, what is that? And it just the relationships that you build over time. And I mean, there are relationships that I've built in my business that I would have never thought would have brought me to the place that I am today. Like people that I've shot for, and like let me give Rain as an example, and Monster Energy. Somebody that I shoot with on a regular basis introduced me to them, even though they do a lot of work with him. He's like, yo, my guy Nick is great. This and that. That started a relationship with them. Hey, Nick, we want you to shoot monthly for us. We want you to come to some of our projects, this and that. I'm at the Olympia next week. I'm in Germany next year with them. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
And I told this person, since 2018, I've been working with this individual. I said, I got to give kudos where kudos is due. You have helped progress my career in a lot of ways that I never thought that it would. And I got to thank you and appreciate that relationship. And he was flattered. He was like, yo, you're great at what you do, man. I appreciate you. So there's a lot of give and take with these relationships that, you're supposed to cultivate in that way. You're supposed to be helping one another kind of elevate and get to the next level. At least that's what it means to me when I network with people.
Yeah, and it's a lost art too. People don't give a shit about stuff like that anymore.
Yeah.
Where do you think it fell apart?
I mean, it's been falling apart for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think the latest blow to it was like the pandemic. I think when everybody's home and isolated, whatever little people skills people had left, whatever shit people gave about humanity kind of went out the window. I mean, I try to bring everybody into my office to have a conversation. I love meeting people face to face. I'm old school like that. I feel like you can tell a lot about a person when you meet them. And
Having eye contact, speaking.
Right. I need to look in your face and see who you are and have a conversation with you. And then I feel like I get to know you a little bit. It doesn't come through on Zoom the same way. It doesn't come through over the phone.
I knew he was going to say that.
And everybody wants to jump on the fucking video conference or on a conference call, and it's just not the same. Somebody's not paying attention. Somebody's not giving a shit. Someone's taking care of their kids or walking their dog and not listening. It's like, I need someone to be present and talk to me. Because if you care about relationships, you want to be present and connect with somebody. Yeah. And I think that people just don't care enough about that. They don't think they need it anymore, and I think it's a shame.
How many times are people just ready to send a text message instead of just pick up the fucking phone, call?
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's insane. All the time. It's like, yo, I tell people all the time, hey, they text me, yo, can I give you a call? It's a phone, man. That's the primary function of this thing, right? It wasn't to DM chicks on Instagram.
Right.
It's literally to make phone calls and text messages.
The phone is an app on your phone.
It's right.
Right.
It's wild. It's so
Right.
strange to me.
I literally traded 10 emails with somebody the other day trying to set up a time for a phone call. And then my last email was, you could have just called me now.
Would have taken the amount of time that we've gone back and forth.
99% of all business since the Stone Age was word of mouth, I think, until the birth of social media. And then I think that's probably an inflection point where like society as a whole just decided to entertain themselves differently, pursue careers differently. I just, and again, not to shit on all social media, despite not having it personally, despite owning a social media company like the app, but dare you side, I think social media was really like the big turning point in professional business, professionally in business and personally with respect to relationships. I think they become strained. The reason I have no social media is because I keep my friends, family closer by having to call them, by having to visit them. I don't have all these distractions. I'm not spending, what was it, your phone time, 8 hours fucking last time I was on this. Last time you and I were here?
It's probably worse now. I'll tell you what, because I've been throwing.
You gotta see this is fucking.
I've been throwing all the TikToks up and shit like that.
It's wild.
Nah, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's nutty.
And again, to each his own. That's fine. You want to entertain yourself by looking at TikTok videos all day. I don't hold it against you, but as a
I
whole,
gotta justify myself.
not
now.
you. I meant the proverbial you. Everybody, right? But unfortunately, it has a severe negative impact on the authenticity of relationships. That's my opinion. I think that's where things started to turn was the social media.
It was a big blow for sure.
I think your scotch is getting cold.
It's not getting cold.
He's great.
I think yours is too, buddy.
Yeah, mine definitely is. All right, so like last Wednesday. So you know what's crazy? What's crazy is, I mean, listen, you guys can attest to it. I shoot these videos, I do these things, and what I do is obviously a job in and of itself. That's why I get hired to help companies do it, because they either don't have the means internally to do it, or they just don't have the expertise, and they want to have somebody that specializes it. But then the other side of it is the actual social media posting and the people that have to do that. When's the best time to post? What's the best day? What content's working for your page? Like these things, a social media manager, that's another job title in its own. So I wind up being all of that for myself because I can do it all, but mentally it's exhausting.
It's a good business strategy though, like data and aggregating that kind of information as to the best time to capitalize on opportunity. I get that. But to Joe's point, you know, sometimes kicking it old school is the way to get a quality. Fucking kidding me?
That was Wednesday.
12
hours.
12
screen
hours.
on time.
I don't even know how to
12
pull up
hours
that
and
thing on my
31
phone.
minutes.
12 hours, 31 minutes of
Insane.
screen on time. And
That's
social
insane.
had 4 hours and 41 minutes of screen time.
And you slept that night?
You know what? Not well. By the way, side note, shouts to Tempur-Pedic.
Oh, okay.
I just spent 5 bands over there. Dude sold me. Let me tell you. Dude sold me. I looked at him and I went, you fucking sold me, Fred. Like, you sold me. I walked in there. I had the dog with me. I walked in there. I said, yo, man, my back is shot. I said, I wake up every morning in pain.
What do you say? Like, yo, I got you. Come lay on this.
He's like, yo, come lay on this firm mattress right here. I said, all right, man, I got you. I lay down. Kenji lays down next to me on the floor. And I lay there and I go, yeah, this is nice. He goes, this is nice. And he goes like this. He goes, yo, wait, let me put you in zero gravity mode.
Ooh.
And I went, oh, what is that? Lifted my feet up. The head came up a little bit. I went, oh, pressure's gone. This is fantastic. So I said, well, what is all of this zero gravity going to cost me? Is it less than a SpaceX rocket? Like how much is this going to cost? And he just goes, listen, man, he's like, we got the Black Friday sale going on.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
we
got the Black Friday sale going on. He goes, let me have you lie on this one. This one's a little cheaper. But let me have you lie on this one. So I lay on the other one. I go, it's nice. He goes, well, theoretically they're the same, but the other one's more plush. I said, I love a good plush
With a
mattress.
setting called zero gravity, how do you not buy in?
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
true.
So I went there, and really what the zero gravity mode is it's the frame that has the motor built into it. So that's an extra. So did I have to buy the zero gravity mode? No. Would I have hated myself if I didn't buy the zero gravity mode? Yes. So now I'm gonna start inviting chicks over and be like, yo, you wanna lay in bed like we're 90 and I can prop the top up and we can read.
Amazing.
Right? Read by candlelight, by something.
He's joking. People don't read anymore.
I'm trying to read. I don't know if it's the screen on time that's fucking my reading up.
Definitely the screen on.
But I try to read, and I just start, after like a page, I'm like this. I'm like, oh my God. This is so boring. What else is going on? And then Call of Duty's right there. I can just give me the controller.
That's one thing I'm really happy I never drank that Kool-Aid.
Of what, video games?
Video games, yeah.
I love
my last claim to fame in the video game space was Nintendo 64.
Wow.
We have one at the office. It's either GoldenEye or Mario Kart. Mario Kart, I'm unbeatable.
All right, so what you're saying is you're gonna come over to my place in Huntington Village.
No, you're going to come over to the game room in the office. We're going to have a Mario Kart tournament, which I've since been banned from at my office because...
I was propositioning more McAllen and
yes.
food, and obviously I would love for you to be there as well, but I was propositioning
Joe
Mario Kart, McAllen, and food, not just going in the middle of the day to go where everybody's trying to sell shit and we're just in the break room.
We'll do both.
All right, fine, done.
Fine.
Anyway, my zero gravity comes out.
Was this a plug?
I'm so excited, man.
Was it a plug?
Nah, Tempur doesn't sponsor the podcast.
Shout out to Fred.
Yeah, yo, Fred, man, sold me, bro. Dog isn't gonna be eating for the next 2 weeks. It's crazy. You starved my dog. You thought he was cute as shit, but then you took food right out of his mouth.
Best testimonial ever.
Yeah. How did we get on that?
I don't know. Casting with you is always fun.
It's a good time, man. We're kind of all over the place. I think we were on networking and talking about that type of stuff, and looking people dead in the eye and actually having that personability. Now, I'll tell you, I'm pretty much a people person. If you couldn't tell, we just met, and we don't have any rapport, but here we are, drinking Macallan, talking about mattresses. It's great. Yeah. After COVID, though, it was strange. It definitely took me a little while to get back into my skin of being able to. I had social anxiety. I've never had that in my life, but being out in like mass groups, malls, and stuff like that, I've never had that, and I just felt very off. It was weird.
I remember watching movies during COVID, and like in the movie, people were like in crowds, and I was thinking to myself, like, that's nuts. Could you imagine being around all these people? I'm like, fuck. I guess that's what it used to be. Took me a minute also to come back to it and be like, oh shit, we're gonna do that again.
So I guess on the regulation side of things for the hospitality industry, obviously New York City was wild with the crackdowns. Whether you believe in them or not, it was an insane time to just watch all of this occur. Now for me, and I'm not looking for any opinions on this unless you want to interject and give them, to me it was amazing that we could have big box stores open, but all the little guys had to suffer. That threw me for a wrench, and I was super upset about that. Being an entrepreneur and being a huge supporter of small business, that was hard to watch. But even more so, watching the regulations of gotta have your mask on when you walk in the restaurant. But when you sit down, you can take it off. But when you walk to the table, gotta have it on. What was it like when those started unfolding and having to navigate your clients around that?
Yeah, man, it was a challenge, because whether you believe in, any of this shit or not, and some people do, some people don't, it was what it was, and everyone had to follow the rules, whether it made sense or it didn't make sense, or it made sense to you, didn't make sense to you, whatever. Everybody had to follow these rules, and most of them were impossible to follow. So, for hospitality businesses specifically, that whole COVID period was an absolute nightmare. Tons of people went out of business. The people who stayed were lucky to stay, and they were, not making any money, just kind of sticking around, hoping they could weather the storm for the most part. So for me and my firm, which is a hospitality-focused firm, when all of your clients are literally out of business, what the fuck do you do?
That must have been a scary time.
It was very scary. There were days I'd wake up and be like, fuck, am I out of a job now? But, at the time we had about 10 people that worked for us, and we were like, all right, well, we're responsible for these people, and we're responsible for our clients, and we're responsible to help. So my partner had, this brilliant idea that we should just put a newsletter together. We felt like we had a handle on what was going on. We felt like the regulations, the rules, everything was so confusing, and no one knew where to turn to. And every news outlet on the fucking planet came out with a different take on something or a different interpretation of something, and most of them were wrong. So we put together this newsletter in March of 2020. We had like 210 people on our mailing list. And it was basically in our voices of like, hey, this is who we are. We represent a bunch of people, and we're going to try to help as many people through this as we can. Here's what we know. Here's what we've read. Here's our take on it. And that email list of 200 and whatever people, turned into 8,000 by the end of COVID. And we were churning out newsletters every fucking day. And we were tackling different topics that people in hospitality should care about, whether it was how to apply for a PPP loan, or, how to negotiate with your landlord, or what to do if you're in this situation or that situation, or how to apply for these grants and these loans, and how to do this, how to do that, how to fire everybody, how to hire everybody back, how to furlough people. You name it. We came up with a topic that people needed to hear about, and we'd put it in a newsletter. We did webinars. We tried to do anything and everything we could to keep the lights on and to keep our name relevant as a firm.
What was the percentage of your clients that dropped off? Or that filed?
I would say that we were very fortunate in that the gross majority of our clients made it through.
That's great.
Yeah. That's not the gross majority of restaurants. That's just the gross majority of our clients.
Well, restaurants got pummeled.
Yeah. But, the gross majority of ours actually made it through. But it was really interesting because this was like the biggest nightmare. No one knew what the next day held. And, one of the ways that we survived is, people resonated with the voice that we use in this newsletter, and we put one out every day, and it was a ton of work. I wasn't doing liquor license work. I was writing fucking newsletters. I was analyzing state and federal regulations and giving people my take on it. And,
how are you, I'm sorry to interrupt. How are you coming up with like the most recent, was it just you were seeing it in the news? Was it inside information from the state trickling down?
It was
because it was changing every like hour, it felt like.
Yeah, it was research. It was research with, city, state, federal news outlets, online, trying to find anything you could. And then ultimately there's going to be a regulation behind anything that comes out. So we're lawyers, right? So we'll read those regulations, we'll digest them, and we'll give it to people in a digestible fashion. And, we did PPP loan applications for people. We worked with an accounting firm, our accounting firm.
SMG Group.
Shout out to Greg and Wes.
Yeah,
and we were basically just like, I called Greg one day and I was like, look, I know how to sell shit, and I have a list of people that need something that I'm going to try to sell, but I'm not a fucking accountant, and I have never done, SBA applications before. You guys know how to do that? Yep. Okay, cool. I'm the front piece. You're the back piece. I'll go out and make the sale, and my applications team will help put together the information, and you guys go and process your thing, and we'll split it and we'll make it happen. And that's what kept the lights on for both of us for months throughout COVID. And it was things like that we were able to just kind of figure out what people wanted. We couldn't open businesses because nobody was opening a restaurant in the middle of the pandemic.
Did you have any clients that defied the lockdowns?
There's no defying them. You defy them, you get shut down. Defy them, you pay fines out the ass until you have no more money left. Like, there's no defying them.
Well, there are one or two, but that's...
Yeah.
Did you follow Ian Smith down in Jersey?
Yeah, so we had clients who threw like underground raves. We had clients who, threw parties that went over capacity of what they were supposed to have. And they all got shut down. And they all had tons of money to pay in fines. And like, those aren't my favorite cases to defend, especially in the early days when nobody knew what the fuck was going on, and you were clearly...
They're not defensible, so
creating a dangerous situation. It's like, the rule is this, you guys are doing that. What do you want me to do? Right? It's like, we don't have a lot of room to work here. So yeah, it was pretty nuts.
And you deal with the litigation as well?
Yeah, we have litigators in my office. We dealt with litigation with against the city, against the state.
How was that experience?
How do you think it was?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's exactly the response I thought I was going to get.
Right? It's hard to find a sympathetic ear in like a judge when like you're blatantly doing something that's endangering people, or you're blatantly doing something that is like the opposite of what the law is. So
what happened to you during the pandemic?
Whew, wild, it's crazy. Crazy.
Well, tell us about it, Nicholas.
I will tell you about it. I was doing great. I was set to get my own place. I was set to have some pretty amazing months ahead of me. I had my most retainer clients I had ever had at the time. And then everything just went to zero. Can't get together. We're not doing business. There's no reason for us to shoot. And we can't congregate. We can't do anything. So even if we wanted to shoot, there's really no reason to, and this and that. So I think the first month I didn't know what was going on, so I took it seriously. And the second month, the entrepreneur in me came out, and I was like, I gotta make money. I don't know what's going on. I can't sit home anymore. Like, I can't keep drinking, even though it was great to actually hit a reset button in some ways. And I talked to this with a couple of my buddies. If I knew that coming on the other side of COVID, I would be tenfold on my business and things would be fine and everything would be great, I would have probably enjoyed it a little bit more. And in terms of enjoyed it, I mean, like, not dragged it out, but I would have let those nights that we were just playing Xbox from morning to sunset and just drinking whiskey and bullshitting and hanging out. And I just got Kenji, so I probably would have enjoyed things and not stressed as much because I was fucking stressed. Yeah. Just like everybody. I don't want to sound like I'm alone in this because everyone was stressed.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not.
So I don't want to be unsympathetic. Right? Unsympathetic? Yeah, it's not sure. Whatever. I don't want to be unsympathetic to other people and what they went through because obviously we were theoretically in it together, but we weren't.
Yeah.
So then coming a couple of months down the line, 3-4 months after March 2020, so like we're talking the summer-ish, hadn't gotten COVID yet. I was everywhere. We were doing a lot of underground gym shoots. Athletes were coming from all over the world. We had boards up all over the gyms because gyms weren't allowed to operate, which was the biggest, most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Once again, whether you agree with it or not, totally cool. I respect everyone's opinion, but I think that was the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. And we put up a bunch of boards on the windows, and we were doing gym shoots in there. Never got COVID. I'm talking every corner of the world athletes. Nobody. Got it from a chick. I got it from a chick. It was like January, February of 2021. Got it from her. And I wouldn't have known I had it if I didn't lose my smell besides that. But I think the moral of the story was that I would have enjoyed the relaxation in the beginning a little bit more, but I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have still been out doing what I was doing because I needed to. In my field, you have to stay relevant. And it deals a lot with other fields as well, but more so like with the creative side of things. If people don't see you shooting, or people don't see you out with clients, this and that, they're like, oh, what happened to Nick? Where's he at? He must not be doing well, or he must not be with clients, and something must have happened. He must have fallen off. So I think staying relevant, which is why I'm on social, which is why I post all the clips on the podcast and this and that. I don't want to have 14 hours of screen time. I really don't. That's actually another reason why I got the new watch. Got the new watch because I found that every time I walk the dog, I know this pivoted away from COVID into phone screen time, but I found that every time I walk the dog in Huntington, in the village, I just sit there scroll. Like I said, I'd walk and scroll. Like I'm scrolling. It's boring, right? Whatever. The dog's just gonna pee, and we're just walking around, and he wants to just get exercise. So I would just be walking and just scrolling. Now though, I got the cell phone reception on the watch. I put earphones in. I put a podcast on, and I don't look at a screen at all. I'm present. Besides the audio, I'm present because I try to catch up on other podcasts. I'm present with what's going on. The dog's licking some shit. Yo, bro, cut it out. Like before, I'd scroll and I'd see it too late. You're looking around at your surroundings, being aware, watching people, this and that. And I think you just lose a little bit of that being in the moment of society type thing when we're always just looking at these screens.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Stargazing.
Stargazing.
Drunk or sober.
Just looking up at
the
the
stars. Go out
stars.
at night and look up. It is highly therapeutic.
It is.
Yeah. Especially when you're drunk. You know why? Because your vision is like, you don't know if they're all shooting stars or you're just fuzzy. It's kind of great. It's arguably one of my favorite activities.
I don't know if I could do it drunk. I like to just sit and be chill.
Oh, I love the spins.
Hate the spins. It makes me feel like I'm getting vertigo. I've had vertigo a couple times in my life, and I actually had it when I worked for you. I hate it.
Did you?
Woof.
Oh,
yeah.
No bueno.
Yeah.
I see vertigo as something to be overcome.
No.
Through practice.
No. It's not. It's an issue that I had to get checked up on. It actually wound up being what do they call it? Tech neck. Because you're always strained forward looking at the screens, this and that. So it tightens up the sublocciminals.
I like that.
It tightens up the sublocciminals in the back of your head, and those muscles get so tight right at the base of the skull that it actually causes pressure, headaches, this and that. You probably get them and you don't even know. It's from looking at the screens all day and craning forward. So I have a chiropractor that I work with. I have a PT that does all the muscle massage therapy, works out everything. He'll move all the muscle tissue, like work it out. You feel like it's a brand new neck. It's crazy. Things fresh out the crate.
Nice.
So, yeah, tech neck. If you're getting vertigo, you're getting the spins generally, unless you have a serious medical. Do I have to do a disclaimer? I'm not a doctor. Is that a thing? I'm not a doctor, so don't take this as medical advice. However, if you're on your phone a lot and you're getting headaches and you're getting a little vertigo, you might have to go get that shit worked out. So that's what I was doing during COVID.
Nice. This is what I was doing during COVID.
Yeah, so you were not far off from what I was doing. You just minus the Call of Duty.
I'm good.
Are you sure?
I mean, there's still plenty in there.
Is there? No, there is.
He's that friend that just...
I'm the 1,000% that guy.
guy.
I am that guy. I just want everybody to be happy and have fun and laugh, because is there any more enjoyable feeling than laughter?
No.
None.
Oh, I can name a few.
All right. I mean, well, your libido got you COVID, so.
Whoa!
What do you mean, whoa? Speaking facts, bro.
Pretty factual.
Yeah.
Pretty factual. Oh, man. I was so tight after that. I was so mad.
I don't even know if I ever got COVID because I never cared to check. I'm sure I had it like 50 times.
Probably had.
Yeah, but I just, like when the pandemic started, I didn't even really acknowledge that it was real. When everything shut down, I figured, actually, I didn't even know what to think. My first inclination was, hey, who's down to party? So I called, no, it's true. Like I literally called everybody I knew and I was like, check. All right. X, check.
It's crazy I didn't get a call. It's nuts. I would have been down to party.
Would you?
Yeah, I would have been down to party.
Mr. Vertigo?
I got the tech neck worked out. All right, they worked me out already.
But yeah, pandemic sucked.
Yeah.
I think by May I was starting to lose my shit a little bit.
Yeah.
I was starting to get a little like doom and gloom around May, thinking like if this never goes back, what's gonna happen? You're gonna have looting and rioting and smashed ATMs and all this shit. Like how bad is it gonna get? I had that for like a week and then kind of fucking snapped out of it. Went back to the office and.
Were you guys open?
So we were actually classified as an essential business. So we got that classification right out of the gate because, we service medical facilities, doctors, etc. So, yeah, we were open for anybody who wanted to come to the office. Everybody else was Zoom and Teams and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
But
good.
We were active, or as active as we could be. The problem was people weren't paying their bills. So
That's always good.
yeah, always good. Right.
Yeah, so what is that, a collections situation?
Yeah, I mean, our AR was probably the highest it's ever been.
What is AR?
Accounts receivable.
Thank you.
Sorry. And
You like break it down?
Yeah, so it took us maybe 4 or 5 months to really get back into a rhythm after some of the restrictions were lifted and we all went back to the office, but it's a fucking brutal time.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad we made it.
It's funny. I years ago, I was at like some stupid networking thing, and it was out of state. I don't remember if it may have been in L.A. And I was talking to this like older lawyer who was a real jerk off, and he said, "Aren't you nervous about like doubling down on the hospitality industry?" And I was like, "Nervous about what?" And he goes, "Well, all your clients are bars, restaurants, nightclubs, and hotels in New York City." And I'm like, right, in New York City. Mm. When is New York City not going to have a bustling nightlife scene, restaurant scene, hotel scene, tourists all day, every day, blah, blah, blah? And he goes, yeah, good point. Mm. And that was the end of the conversation. That was like 10 years ago. And then during COVID, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
That fucking guy.
That fucking guy.
He's right.
He hexed me from that long ago?
That fucking guy. But you don't think about it like that. No. You're like, could you imagine all the restaurants in New York City shutting down? No. Well,
why would that be?
Happened.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Now, were you in the office or were you home when you were doing the newsletters?
Home.
You were home?
Yeah, well, we weren't allowed to be in the city.
So was that the first time since opening the practice that you guys weren't kind of conjoined and doing everything hand in hand?
Yeah. Yeah, we were on Zoom calls all day, every day.
Yeah, you good.
It was pretty wild.
That must be, I was going to say, that must have been a very big transition.
It was nuts. I had just moved out of the city a little bit before that. So, and I'm glad I did because I couldn't imagine being, in my apartment in like a box as opposed to having a big house yard, can go outside, do whatever I need to do.
Now, I never lived in the city, but I know that it's, number one, it's fucking packed.
Oh, and it was fucking scary.
That's what I was going to say. Like, no one on the streets, but everyone in the buildings, just like hearing everybody in their own apartments.
Yeah, it was scary. It was not a great place to be.
And now after COVID, what was it like navigating the waters, getting back to normalcy, kind of as things were opening up, the regulations were getting less and less, I guess, or the restrictions, I should say,
were
becoming less and less.
It was tough. It's a transition. It's still a transition. Things aren't back to what they were pre-COVID still.
So what are you guys dealing with now, for an example, in the city?
Well, I think it's not, we're doing the same work that we were doing pre-COVID, but I think philosophically things are different. Patterns of people when they go out are different. Approaches to people looking to open places are different. People are looking for different types of deals. People don't want to sign leases. They want to do management agreements. We're waiting for landlords and developers to decide, they're going to maybe entertain activating different spaces or activate things in a different way to make it more appealing to people.
Hello, welcome back.
So it's, it's shifted, and I don't think it's done shifting yet either. I don't think we're fully transitioned back into what this new normal is going to be.
Yeah, you guys, I'm sure you represent some landlords.
Some.
And so, what is that like dealing with the lease? Not the lease, the payments, right? What was it? They didn't have to pay. What was it called?
Yeah, there was a moratorium.
There you go. Rent moratorium
on rents, and we represented mostly tenant. We didn't represent any landlords on that. We represented tenants only. Because all of our clients were on the tenant side, and they were in a position where they didn't have to pay rent for a little while. So, what we did with a lot of people is we used the rules that were in place to, negotiate to get them out of the deal.
And so now, what does that look like for the client? The client isn't legally obliged to have to pay the rent. Do they have to do back pay? Was it something where the landlords are getting kickbacks from the government to stay in, or they just had to go out of pocket?
Yeah, so there were a couple things. So you had this rent moratorium, but you also had this PPP program where people, if they applied for it and got approved, they got this pot of money, and that money had to be earmarked for certain things, and you could spend up to X on rent. So we were cutting deals with landlords saying, we'll apply for this thing, and if we get it, we'll give you X in exchange for us just getting out of this lease altogether. And if you don't like it, we won't give you any money. And we'll see how long this moratorium lasts, and we'll see if there are any more protections after that. So kind of playing chicken a little bit with landlords, and some landlords are happy to take back spaces and just, give new tenants new deals.
Okay. That's tricky.
It's wild. And then, all the phone calls from people that you've worked with for 10 years who are like, I'm going out of business. How do I tie everything off? Oh, also, I can't afford to pay you. What do you do with those calls? You just say, sorry, dude. Or do you just suck it up and, represent them?
Keep it for the relationship?
Yeah.
What did you do?
We did it for the relationship. Yeah. Our whole philosophy throughout the pandemic was let's try to support people however we can. And if people can't pay for it, we'll work with them. We'll figure it out. And, the hope was always that karma would just write us a check afterwards.
And did that pan out for you? Not necessarily financially, but did that pay out for you in terms of the relationships and cultivating and keeping them?
Yeah, we helped a lot of people, and a lot of people got back up on their feet, and then they came immediately to us, and they were just like, thank you for what you did. And now, the loyalty is crazy.
Cool.
And we also got, we had people subscribing to our newsletter from LA, from, Vegas, Miami, Chicago. We had people who own restaurant groups all over the country that just got forwarded our email list because, the information we were putting out there was clear and concise and was right.
How'd that feel?
Pretty great.
Yeah, I was going to say, all that work and all the research that you're doing to try to keep everybody. Yeah, it's just, just you see it and you see, oh shit, there's people in other states that are actually following what we're doing and talking about, and should have had a podcast, man. That would have fucking killed.
Yeah, we actually, when we just built a new office space and we put a podcast room in there.
I love that.
We do webinars and shit like that, so we do them from there. But yeah, a podcast probably would have been better than the newsletter.
That's all right.
I still haven't been to Joe's office because we're too busy going to Vegas. But I feel like I'm overdue for a trip.
Anytime you want. Yeah. I even have a bottle of Macallan in there with your name on it.
What? Wow, that's it. I might drive there right now. Wait for you for Monday.
I'm a goner.
We do. We have a drink cart in the office, an old timey drink cart.
I love it.
And there is a bottle of Macallan 12.
Was that a rolling bar? So it was called a rolling bar,
something like that.
Sexy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm in.
I want to get into how you've now over the last. It was probably before COVID or during, especially. But how have you navigated getting into the cannabis space? I feel like there's a lot of faux pas when it first started making its rounds coming through.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So probably about, 7 years ago or so, my partner and I took a look at cannabis when it first started to legalize in states throughout the country. And we just kind of dug in a little bit. And what we found was that after a short stint with the state health department, it moves along to the state liquor authority, or a new agency under the auspices of the state liquor authority. And we kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, no one knows the state liquor authority in New York better than we do. Nobody knows that licensing process better than we do. And no one knows those people better than we do. So this might be an opportunity to get in on the ground floor of something that could be massive. So we started to chart it. We went all over the country. We went to literally every state that had legalized, set up meetings with lawyers, regulators, lobbyists, state officials, operators, and started to understand the industry, understand how it gets rolled out, how legalization happens, so we could better read the tea leaves in New York. And then back in 2018, I was tapped to start helping write legislation for the governor's office for a legalization plan. Never something I thought I'd be doing, but here we are. Just because of my involvement with alcohol. And the cannabis rules in New York were going to follow the alcohol rules. And they wanted to understand from a real life practitioner, like what things look like in practice. So that was kind of the advice I was giving. It failed when it was on the budget for 2019. But there was a movement starting, and there was some momentum behind the concept of legalizing. And our governor wasn't really on board, so he kind of was the reason it failed a bunch of times. But eventually, when he had no power left, the legislators had a supermajority and they pushed it through. So now we have legalization here, and now we are pretty well positioned for it because, we're New York State regulatory people, and my whole law firm is built on the idea of helping entrepreneurs take an idea and get it up and running. So that's plug and play from hospitality to cannabis.
What's the process look like for legalization? When was the new bill introduced? When did it get approved? And now, obviously, it's not just hey, it's approved, it's legal, we can just start smoking joints outside and shit like that. Well, what is the process now? Is it? I know there's a waiting period.
Wait, you can't smoke joints outside?
You can. You actually can. That's literally
you can?
what
Okay,
it is.
that's what happened? Okay.
I
wasn't sure what the process was.
So
because I know in Long Island, at least, it's obviously separate from the city. Long Island, only a couple of towns approved it. It was like, Riverhead and like somebody else were the ones that approved it, but everywhere else you're still not allowed to. Theoretically, it's decriminalized to a certain extent. If I'm mistaken or correct,
you're mistaken.
Okay,
so here's the deal: March of 2021, this bill passed and it went into effect, legalizing marijuana in New York State.
Okay.
So what does that mean? That means you can walk around anywhere in New York State you want to, with up to 3 ounces of weed on you, and you don't get hassled. You can just hold it in your hand and walk down the street. And like nobody awesome. Can bother you. You can smoke a joint anywhere you can smoke a cigarette in the entire state, and you can't get arrested. They can't ticket you. They can't take it out of your hand. If you can smoke a cigarette, you can smoke a joint anywhere in the state. Also, if you had a low-level cannabis charge from prior to March of 2021. Expunged.
Wow.
That's what's happening right now. That's what exists at the moment. What didn't happen right away was the regulatory framework for commerce.
So where you could purchase it.
Right. So I could bring weed and give some to you. No problem with me gifting it to you. No problem with me carrying it. No problem with me doing anything I want with it. Smoking it, giving it to people. I can't sell it because then I'm a drug dealer and that's illegal. And we're waiting for the regulations to come out in New York to tell us how that stuff's going to work.
So where did you buy it though? If you're just gifting it to somebody, where do they?
Someone had to buy it from somewhere.
Yeah. So where do they want you to buy it from?
Right. Well, nowhere yet. So the idea was
so the weed just appeared.
In theory,
the idea is
you can buy it from a dispensary across state lines and bring it into the state of New York.
No, because then you're crossing state lines with a federally illegal substance.
Okay.
But if you buy it from a drug dealer...
So I should stop doing that.
Yes.
He goes, please, I don't want to get that call. We even talked about it on the fucking podcast.
So they've been working on these regulations for a long time, and they just dropped a proposed set of them a couple weeks back. So now we have a proposed regulatory framework, and that's going to be accepted in the next couple of months. Or they're going to look for public comment, I should say, over the next couple months. They might edit them, do it again. And then between Q1 and Q2 of next year, we're going to see an application window open, and people are going to be able to file applications to actually open real cannabis businesses in New York.
Like in California, Colorado.
Exactly.
Was it Massachusetts, Boston?
Yep, Massachusetts also. Yep.
So now let me ask you this. Is Connecticut, is it legal?
I believe they just passed a bill, but there's no commerce for it yet.
Okay, so let's say that goes through and it's legal in Connecticut at the same level that it is in New York.
Yep.
Now, what Matt said, if you buy it from Massachusetts and you drive it down to New York, Is that still illegal, even though all 3 states have that theoretically
Yes.
legalized?
Still legal because what you're doing is you're crossing state lines, which becomes a federal issue, and marijuana is still illegal federally, which makes no sense.
It's fucking so weird.
It's on the same schedule with cocaine. It's considered more dangerous than poppies and heroin. So you figure that shit out. But what some of the states like Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey are thinking about or talking about and have been for a while is entering into some sort of, interstate compact that would cover people who may live in New Jersey and commute into New York for work. If they have a weed pen
So
on
the
them, it's
federal
no big
goes out
deal.
the window.
Right. If there's an interstate compact, they can kind of compact around a potential federal issue.
But don't you see any federal regulation coming down the pike to like make this?
I mean, at some point it'll happen, most likely. There'll either be a federal legalization or they'll just deschedule it, which is what makes it illegal because it's a Schedule I substance. But, I don't want it to happen anytime soon.
And why is that?
Because once it becomes federally legal, then it becomes a big business game only. Pharmaceutical companies are in it, and then gone are the days where there's opportunity for entrepreneurs who want to get into the space.
Gotcha.
Now, I want to get into the business. I want to help people get into the business in New York, get established, start generating some revenue, make some money. And then after everyone's established, if they want to open it up federally, great. That just spells exits for all of my clients, and I'm thrilled with that.
Yeah, but there's obviously no potential. There's no way that they wouldn't. They see the opportunity, is what I'm trying to say. It's like the federal government sees the opportunity at a big business standpoint. So wouldn't they want to do that sooner than later?
I mean, that you're assuming that there are no lobbyists that are trying to keep it federally illegal.
Well, yeah.
And what would the lobbyists? What would be the benefit to the lobbyists? Because when I think of lobbyists, I think of big business.
Yeah, you tell me why big alcohol wouldn't want federal legalization of cannabis.
Okay, right there.
You tell me why big tobacco wouldn't want federal legalization of. Now you name me 2 bigger lobbying groups in the world.
None.
Right.
Okay.
You tell me why big pharma wouldn't. What's that going to do to, the people who are addicted to opiates? If they had another natural, better for them version, do you think they'd do it?
More than likely, yeah.
Right. So big pharma doesn't want it, big alcohol doesn't want it, big tobacco doesn't want it. And that's just the ones that I know of, right? There are probably some competing interests out there that I couldn't even fathom. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. And then there's the whole political argument, depending on who our next president is, or what the Senate looks like. There's so many different competing interests in this whole thing. It's much bigger than just, hey, don't we want the tax revenue? Because if it was that simple, it would have been legalized, 50 years ago.
I'll be honest, I think there's a little more zhuzh doing it when it's illegal. I think things that are illegal from a psychological standpoint are a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because it's daunting.
Well, because there's that taboo effect.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this.
I get it.
Well, I mean,
but that's part of the high.
Well, think about the back prohibition with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
And then when it opened back up, obviously alcohol is a huge thing, and it not that it died down in any particular way, but obviously the need to do it more when it wasn't allowed and you couldn't do it.
Yeah,
it's there.
Prohibition must have been a great time to party.
You just want to meet some chicks that brood in their bathtub.
No, it's not even that. I like being drunk all the time. That doesn't make me an alcoholic. I'm a perpetual drunk. See, alcoholics, they get sick because they stop. I just never stop.
You just never stop.
Right.
Can I ask you a serious question?
Sure.
Have you ever had that liver checked?
It's either made of coal or diamonds.
Okay.
And I don't want to find out which.
I'm going to set you up with my boys over at Prefusion. They're going to do your blood work, and they're going to find out everything about that liver.
I feel like if you pricked my finger and you tried to light my blood on fire, I'd combust.
You would, right?
Yeah.
Just the alcohol
Very
content's
possible.
crazy.
But I got good at drinking. It's a skill. It's a skill. Contrary to popular belief, you need to be really, you need to train. You understand training.
I knew he was going to say that.
you know what guys like us go through.
I get it. You gotta really just pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
I got you.
I just like fun.
I'm gonna get a sample of that blood. I'm gonna have someone test that
Please
for you.
don't.
I need to. I need to. I'm concerned. with how much and how easy you're putting this shit down. He tried to fill you up 3 times. I'm so glad.
I did fill him up 3
I'm
times.
so glad I'm over here, man, because I'm thinking about driving home, and I'm
It sounds like a challenge.
yes. I guess the only other question I had for the cannabis industry is, it's the shops now, and it's the entrepreneurs coming and making what they've done in California and Colorado.
Yeah.
Or is it grow houses in New York State?
It's all the above.
Yeah.
So think about it like this. With it being federally illegal, every state is in its own silo. So if you're going to open a retail store in New York State, you're going to have to get product from somewhere. But that product can't cross state lines. So you need grow houses in New York, and you need people processing that weed in New York and making basically products out of it. And you need people distributing it. And then you need retailers selling it. It's a full ecosystem in every state.
To try to keep it just in one area, as opposed to having to deal with that cross lines.
You have to keep it in one area because it's federally illegal.
What am I thinking of? Well, there's products that you can get by showing a medical card online and have like Colorado grow houses ship it to you.
No.
They have
CBD
Yeah.
is no problem.
And
Right?
CBG?
So there's
CBG
there's the differences between hemp and marijuana. Hemp has a much lower, almost non-existent THC presence.
Yeah.
And that makes it a federally legal substance and a substance that you can go online and you can get shipped to you from anywhere, medical card or not. I think if you're 18 years old, you can do it.
But there were some that you weren't allowed to have shipped CBDs. I remember trying to buy them.
Yeah.
Even though
Delta 9 and Delta 8. Those are elements within that same plant that give you like a light high, similar to THC, but like a lighter version, but technically are hemp, not marijuana. So that was like a loophole that a lot of people were using. They were saying,
I saw the Delta 9s everywhere.
CBD, vape cartridge, but with heavy Delta 9 or Delta 8.
which would get you high.
Which would get you high.
Okay. But not to the same effect, obviously.
Yeah. A little
So
bit less.
purchasing wise, you still can only purchase from medical shops. That's really the only way they purchase in New York State right now.
Or any of the illegal pot shops that have popped open in the last 6 months.
Are there legal?
So where
Really?
my office downtown, I have 4 on my block.
Really?
The walk from the subway to my office, I pass by 4 illegal dispensaries.
That sounds light.
Where do you think this came from?
All right, so walk me through this. So now what happens? Cops go to raid that place. They're just in the wrong and they close shop?
There's no raids. There's no raids. The whole movement right now, the whole climate right now is about how marijuana is not a bad thing, and anyone who went to jail for it previously, we're sorry. No one's going to jail for it again. So cops don't know what to do. There's no enforcement arm of the state agency yet because it's still being built. So this is like the Wild West, and it's a total gray area. And the reality is, like I said before, you can have 3 ounces of flour on you and not get hassled. So you can open up a little illegal pot shop, have 5 people working there, put 15 ounces of pot on display, and if the cops ever walk in, you say, oh, no, that's not for sale. That's just mine. And that's his, and that's his, and that's his. And we're compliant, officer. See you later.
Even though they don't know where they got the pot from.
Right. Or how about this? Have you ever seen a nug of CBD?
Yes, it looks exactly the same.
How does it smell?
It's exactly the same.
Right. So what do you want the cops to come in with their chemistry set and tell you if it's CBD or if it's THC? You can say it's all CBD. And then what are they going to do? Bring in a scientist and figure it out? It's not worth the hassle. So most local law enforcement aren't doing much because there's no real direction as to what to do. And frankly, to what end? What are they going to do? Throw you in jail? No. So it's probably going to get tossed anyway. So it's kind of not worth anybody's time.
So this all gets swept under the rug.
For now, I believe that when New York State starts rolling out the legal stores, they're going to start sweeping these guys up, whether it's a tax evasion charge or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. These guys are going to get shut down. They just adopted enforcement regulations at the state meeting a couple weeks ago that I was at. So, it's going to start to happen. That was like step number 1. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So I could just open a shop tomorrow, theoretically, not legal advice.
I mean, theoretically, you could go rob a bank tomorrow too. Right?
I could.
There's your answer.
I could go rob a bank tomorrow. It's not going to work out great, but
I have the best bank robbery, by the way.
You have the best bank robbery?
Idea for a bank robbery.
Let's do this.
I've been wanting to pitch this for so long. Is this the right place and time?
I mean, I don't want to hear it.
You don't?
On the record, I don't want to hear it.
On the record, this is just theoretical.
You saw this movie once.
Yeah, you saw a movie once. Go on.
I saw this movie. This.
Who was,
no air quotes.
who was the lead actor?
I was. So. So, in theory, I think the best time if you're going to do like a traditional, like bank robbery.
What would be a traditional bank robbery? Just roll up?
Yeah, roll. Well, I don't know.
Tell the teller not to hit the silent alarm.
If you go 50s, 60s, 70s, your gun's blazing.
John Dillinger.
Yeah, right. But I guess from a technology perspective, you require snowmobiles to pull off this heist because the best time to rob a bank, in my opinion, is during a blizzard. Wow. There's no air coverage. Vehicles are not going to perform as well as they ordinarily would on blacktop. And,
accurate.
Right. So you just get a couple snowmobiles, jack a bank and buy.
That's why they don't read serial killer manifestos live. This is the same thing.
No,
don't talk about bank robberies.
Look, this is just an idea. If this ever comes back to haunt me, full disclosure, I don't condone this behavior. I do not advise anybody do this. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's it. That's perfect. That was a perfect disclosure.
That was a good idea.
It's a very good idea. Unless you're robbing a bank in Aspen and they're used to the snow.
Oh yeah, then you're fucked. Right. Oh, Aspen.
All right, we got to get you some food. We got to get you to stop drinking.
You mean start drinking and come with us to Luger's.
I'm gonna see because Puppy's been with Mom. She's been the babysitter all day.
Okay.
I want you to leave us because I would love to have you back on. But I want you to leave us with what's a piece of legal advice that's so simple but so many people fuck up on. Something that you see.
Good question.
Something that you see consistently.
Damn, that's a great question.
Great question.
What's a piece of legal advice that people fuck up regularly? People don't actually think about the future. When they're scrambling and they're trying to raise money or they're trying to put something together, they very rarely think about the future. They really think about structuring things the right way, papering deals. They do shit on handshakes. They don't protect themselves in the future, in the moment.
You're saying people are more reactive than proactive.
I think people are singularly focused on starting their businesses. Kind of everything else, who cares? And I've seen tons of people that have put themselves into impossible situations because they did what they felt like they needed to do at the time, or they didn't know what to do at the time. So if I were going to give someone advice, I'd say, think about the future. Have a goal, know where you want to go, and then proceed accordingly, as opposed to just sort of like being singularly focused. I got to raise money. Okay, cool. Give me some money. Well, why don't you think about what kind of partnerships you want to get into? Think about whether you want someone tethered to you forever, or what happens if you don't like them. Make sure you can get out. Think about the future.
Exit strategies.
Not just exit strategies.
No, I'm saying that you're saying if you want to get out, exit strategies.
Think about what you want the future to look like, and have that fresh in your mind when you're developing your plan.
I love that. Matt, do you have anything else? I feel like you're ready for. I feel like you're ready for a steak.
No, I'm actually not hungry at all.
Wow.
Yeah, I can keep drinking.
That was anticlimactic. I thought you were going to be like, I'm ready for everything under the sun at Luger. How can
if you're coming with us, I'll eat.
I'm going to find out once I take my phone off Do Not Disturb how crazy the puppy is. How can people get in touch with you if they want to have you represent them, legal advice, what have you? What's the best way to do that?
You can do it all through my website. It's www.helbraunlevey.com.
Cool. And Mr. Matt?
To get in touch with me?
There's no way.
Anybody wants to, they call Nick.
Okay.
That's it.
So you guys hit me up. This is I usually look at my laptop. It feels very strange to me. I usually look at my laptop and go, this is episode XXX, but this is episode 40. And I got to figure out a cool little title, The McAllen Brothers.
No, just no.
The McAllen Brothers, until we get the sponsor and we get the check. But everybody, this is episode 40. I appreciate y'all rocking with us. It was a great episode. I hope you learned something. And if you didn't, I don't know what to tell you. There's tons of little sound bites in there. You weren't listening then. Stop focusing on driving. Focus on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having us, Nick.
I
You are a
appreciate you.
gentleman
Thanks,
and a
Nick.
scholar.
I appreciate you, gentlemen. Let's get you some food.
Done.
Peace.
Love it.